He was quiet and he got along with people. Bella was just like Chris, shy, cautious, conservative. I would have never in a million years thought something like this could happen to him.
What do Chris Watt's statements reveal about his personality? What are some of his most worrying personality traits? And how do we identify deceptive language? Looking at key moments from Watts' interrogation, prison interview, and TV interviews, these are the questions this statement analysis will look at. If you're excited about language, you've come to the right place. On this channel, we look at what criminals and influential people say, using a variety of linguistic theories and methods. Welcome aboard, and if you've been here before, welcome back.
I just find it hard to hear you talk about just having this emotional, conversation with Shanann, and you're bawling and crying together, and you have not shed one tear in 2 days that you've been here.
No.
Not one. And help me understand that, because I don't get it. These are your baby girls, and you have not shed one tear over them not being around.
Watts is at a loss for words. With her assessment, Agent Lee has now completed her first pair part. Conversations consist of first pair parts and second pair parts. When you ask someone a question, you expect an answer, and when you give an assessment, you expect some kind of acknowledgement. That's why they're called adjacency pairs. Here, 3 seconds pass without Watts' acknowledgement, without a second pair part. In conversations, and especially in a high-pressure situation like this is a rather long time and indicates that the second pair part speaker finds the first pair part problematic for some reason. As I pointed out in my previous video, Watts uses hyperbolic language or exaggerated language to claim innocence. Language that reveals that he's more worried about the agent's perception of him than his family's whereabouts and safety.
I don't know where they're at. Honestly, I do not know where they are at. I want them back. I want everybody back. That is the God's honest truth.
When Lee brings up the simple issue of feelings, Watts has no answer, because feelings are immediate and can't be controlled. Thus, feelings are the opposite of the lies he tells. After this pause, Watts tries to regain control by imitating the emotions that he knows he should be feeling, but isn't feeling.
Chris, I lose my 4-year-old in the store for 10 seconds and I start to go panic. Panic. I have not seen any of that from you at all. Help me understand that.
I love those girls. I would never do anything just because I haven't shed a tear. You get
no, that's weird. Is that weird?
Don't look into that like I don't love my kids.
Well, tell me, explain to me. You're crying with your wife that you're leaving her.
Watts is an imitator. When the agents bring up something he hasn't shown them yet, in this case emotion, he immediately tries to fake it, which unintentionally reveals that he's not emotional, but cunning.
Is that weird?
Don't.
He can't complete his denial, but makes a self-repair.
I would never do anything just because I haven't shed a tear.
Would never is non-committal, not specific to the topic at hand. It means that he wouldn't do anything, not that he didn't do anything. So a person who wouldn't commit a crime could still have committed said crime. Also, he doesn't actually say that he loves his family. He phrases this in the negative, prefaced with the imperative don't, persuading Lee. His primary concern is how the agents will perceive him, which suggests guilty knowledge. He uses minimizing language,
just because I haven't shed a tear,
downplaying his failure to show emotions, even though not having shed a tear is indeed strange. Conversely, in a different kind of interview, Watts found time for banter.
Shanann went to... Where'd you get that shirt?
Oh, this is I think she got it off Amazon, but this is my favorite college sports team.
Wasn't she just there?
She was, yeah, just in North Carolina. Yep. So she actually probably got it from there. Usually she gets stuff from Amazon, but this one, I like these shirts a lot.
His lack of concern resulted in other unexpected answers.
So how would she have left the house if she did leave the house? Or not even?
I don't want to put anything out there, like just suspecting, like if something like somebody pulled in the back, and because we have a driveway back there from the new townhomes, but it's so hard to tell. Like there's no cameras in the backyard or anything like that, so it's really hard to even suspect anything right now as far as how she could have left, or if someone came picked her up, or if somebody took her.
Typically, relatives will put everything out there, and it's the investigator's job to keep the relatives under control. Watts, however, rationalizes when he's expected to be emotional, irrational even.
You can't just drive around and look. I mean, it's just like you wouldn't really know what you're looking for. That's what the cops pretty much told me. That first day, I was like, I want to get out and drive around. They said, you wouldn't know what to look for. It's really hard to even suspect anything right now.
He doesn't want to put anything out there because he doesn't want people to suspect him. Most times, Watts' words misalign with his facial expressions.
Last night, I had every light in the house on. I was hoping that I would just ran over by the kids running in the door and just like barrel rushing me, but it didn't happen. And it was just a traumatic night trying to be here.
People with guilty knowledge only care about themselves, about giving a good impression to avoid suspicion. Thus, they'll use hyperboles and overemphasis to pretend like they care.
Just ran over by the kids running in the door and just like barrel rushing me.
Watts uses exaggerated language to compensate for his lack of real emotions, and for his lack of ability to even fake emotions. As a result of this, and especially because his word choice misaligns with his body language, what he says ends up sounding contrived. It's a sign that he's more concerned with people getting the right impression of him, not that he's actually telling how he feels.
And it's just earth-shattering.
It's heart-wrenching, it's earth-shattering right now because
I don't feel like this is even real right now. It's like a nightmare that I just can't wake up from. This doesn't seem real at all. It just seems like I'm living in a nightmare and I can't get out of it. I'm just hoping right now that she's somewhere safe, and maybe she's there. But right now it's just like, if she's vanished, like I want her back so bad. I want those kids back so bad.
There isn't any depth to the deep words he uses, because there isn't any depth to his emotions. Watts can't fake sincerity, and his deceptive strategies mean nothing without sincerity, even though he thinks he's smarter than agents and reporters. That's why he's lying in the first place. The next excerpt highlights Watts' self-focus.
You can ask some kind of tough questions about your relationship with your kids.
My kids are my life. I mean, those smiles light up my life. I miss telling them, hey, you got to eat that or you're not going to get your dessert, and just like you're not going to get your snack after. I miss that. Like I miss them, cuddle up on their couches. It was tearing me apart last night, and I needed that. I needed that last night, and for nobody to be here last night and to go into their rooms and know that I wasn't going to turn the rain machines on, and I know that I wasn't going to turn their monitor on. I want everybody to just come home, like wherever they're at, come home. That's what I want.
Watts focuses on what his family makes him feel, allegedly. Their smiles light up his life. He misses telling them to eat, and this is tearing him apart. Why is he concerned with what he needs? What about his family's needs right now as they're talking? He talks about his family as a closed chapter. He already says, I miss that, even though it's only been one night. He knows they aren't coming back, and his own language unintentionally points to that.
If she can watch these, what would you like to tell your wife and your kids?
Shanann, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. Like, if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete without anybody here. Please bring her back.
That's it.
Watts says this while shaking his head no and pursing his lips. Pursed lips often suggest that a person's holding something back. Now we know what he was holding back. Even when he's supposed to address his family, he can't consistently use language that indicates closeness. He says everybody and anybody. He doesn't say without you here, but without anybody here.
you're also, your second thought is that you're afraid people think you may have done something.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. Everybody's gonna have their own opinion on anything like this. I just want them people to know that I want my family back. Like, I want them safe, and I want them here. Like, this house is not the same. I mean, last night was traumatic. Last night was, I can't really stay in this house again, like, with nobody here.
The interviewer's question results in Watts making self-repairs.
Yeah, I mean, nothing.
With you, the interviewer referred to Watts, trying to make him elaborate on his fear. Watts, however, answers indirectly by changing you to everybody, taking the focus off of him grammatically.
Everybody's gonna have their own opinion on anything like this. I just want them people to know that I want my family back. Like,
here we see what happens when the interviewer brings up suspicion. Watts goes into script mode, memorizing his script in order to overemphasize and persuade, as if this is a competition to sound as emotional as possible. And I believe what he says. He wants people to know this. What he doesn't say is that he wants people to know this so that they won't suspect him. This observation is in line with his predominant focus on himself throughout these interviews. He's constantly preoccupied with image. Once again, there's a misalignment between his words and facial expressions.
last night was traumatic. Last night was...
The adverb really modifies a statement.
I can't really stay in this house again, like...
Here, it detracts from his claim that he can't stay in the house again. Like when someone says, we don't really know each other, suggesting that two people actually do know each other, just not really, however they define that. The word nobody is distancing, as if he isn't referring to his family.
With nobody here.
And he keeps overemphasizing, overcompensating for the emotions that he can express naturally and believably.
And last night I wanted that knock on the door. I wanted to see this kid just run in, just barrel rush me and just give me a hug and knock me on the ground. But that didn't happen. Just like barrel rushing me.
He says this as if adding more descriptions will make him seem more convincing, even though the opposite is true, because it's not the words that count, and definitely not rehearsed words that sound like they come from a script. Watts needs a script, as I call it. He needs rehearsed words because he can't reliably show what he doesn't have, emotions for his missing family. In the prison interview, Watts gave more clues to his personality. This is how he talks about his crime.
And every time I think about it, I'm just like, did I know I was going to do that before I got on top, or I don't know.
Really? That's an interesting thought, Chris. You don't know if you knew.
Just like everything that happened that morning, I don't know, like I try to go back in my head, I'm just like, I didn't want to do this, but I did it. And everything just kind of like...
Felt like you had to?
It just felt like it was... I don't even want to say it felt like I had to. It just felt like there was already something in my mind that was implanted that I was going to do it, and I woke up that morning and it was going to happen, and I had no control of it.
Something is a vague word. This vagueness corresponds to his narrative about not knowing what he did. Grammatically, Watts leaves himself out of the picture. Was implanted foreshadows that this was allegedly out of his control, as he ultimately ends up claiming. It was gonna happen suggests that he didn't have a choice and minimizes his agency. The fact that these were his own conscious plans and decisions. It's common for criminals like Watts, who don't experience emotions like most people do, to talk about themselves as being controlled, almost as if a separate entity made them do it. That's why investigators frequently bring up the idea of two entities, to make it easier for the suspect to confess, because the suspect can then blame the other person for his actions.
This just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't add up. So can we talk about two Chris's? Okay. Two Chris's. A tale of two Chris's? Okay. And you need to help me know which Chris I'm looking at today, and which Chris you really are.
However, obviously, there's only one person, and only one person to blame. Making it sound like they couldn't help it is merely an effective way to try and garner sympathy.
I just wish I could have let go.
Did it seem like it was that long? 2 to 4 minutes? How long did it seem for you?
Almost kind of felt like it was longer almost, because it felt like time was standing still. It's kind of like I just saw my life just disappearing before my eyes, but I just like I couldn't let go. It was like somebody else like Like if you picture somebody else around you, holding you, keep you from not letting go.
Next, Watts continues with self-serving descriptions.
Did you look at her? What was she doing?
She wasn't fighting.
He wasn't asked what she wasn't doing, he was asked what she was doing. Answering in the negative indicates that this question is sensitive to him.
Why do you think she wasn't fighting?
I don't know, maybe she was praying, maybe she was just... I read the Bible, it said, or the scripture says, don't forgive these people for they do not know what they do. Maybe she was saying that. I don't know what she was saying in her head, but
The Bible contains many other scriptures that he could have used instead. However, he chooses this particular scripture, most likely because he can use the scripture or his self-serving interpretation of it to imply that he didn't know what he was doing, which is exactly what his previous statements have implied. Thus, it's also implied that he should be forgiven. What's next? Don't judge.
There was one church service, the only one I've been able to go to in here, and it said you're not defined by one moment in your life. And I think that's like, people are defining me by one moment in my life. They don't know like what happened before or what can happen later. So I just hope that, hopefully one day people can stop judging everybody.
I guess so. The fact that Watts thinks he's still in a position to reprimand people for judging and euphemize his horrific crime as one moment in time, as if that's supposed to be relatable somehow, suggests a lack of guilt and a prominent sense of self-importance. That's it for now. If you liked the video, click the like button. Until next time.
Like when I got home yesterday, it was like a ghost town. Like she wasn't here. Kids weren't here.